One of the best charitable organizations in town is Step 13, founded by the late, great Bob Cote. The work continues on with my friend Peter Droege.
Jon,
Peter, it's good to see you again.
It is great to see you, my friend.
All right.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Step 13 is a miraculous place.
Sure is.
And there are a lot of people who don't know about what it does and how it helps homeless and alcoholics. And Bob Cote was a hell of a character when he put this together. I see it as a work that proves that charitable work changes lives.
Absolutely,
without
Jon,
government interference, without government dollars.
You bet.
By having a, let's just say it, a tough love approach to get people to become accountable and to pull their lives back together. And Step 13 is a model around the world for that.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the story. Let's talk first about Bob Cote, because I miss him.
Yeah. Well, I want to start first to thank Independence Institute. We've been connected to Independence Institute. Bob has sat here so many times. You know, Tom Tancredo, John Andrews, you've been such good friends, and you're, the supporters of Independence Institute.
Because we all know that one more drink and that's where we're ending up. So
your supporters are so often our supporters.
They really
are.
are.
So grateful. Yeah. There's such an affinity there. And the next thing is, this is serious business that we're involved in. I do want to talk about Bob, but we had a couple come down about 3 weeks ago. Their beautiful young son had died of a heroin overdose in late October. They were so distraught, and all of a sudden we began receiving donations, and it was in memory of Tony. And so finally I was able to determine where those were coming from, talk to the parents. They came down and told their story. For anyone out there who has a loved one, it may be a spouse, a child, a relative, struggling with addiction, you need to know, really, there's nothing that you can do to change that person. It has to come from within them. It is such a difficult journey to walk. That's what makes it such an exciting, challenging program. And I believe that no one in this country ever knew more about how to recover from addiction than Bob Cote.
Who was an addict himself.
He was an alcoholic and an addict.
And he had his issues, and he really pulled it together. And I think he put together, it's not a formula for guaranteed success. I don't think you, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, you can't guarantee success.
No, not in addiction.
With these demons. But he saw that this system of government just saying, here's your bed for the night, and here's your food, and we'll set you back out tomorrow to have more drugs, and then come on back in, wasn't working. What did he do differently?
Well, 30 years ago, Bob was an alcoholic living on Skid Row in Denver, and he saw a couple of folks around him dying of their addiction. And he had a moment of clarity where he realized that he was going to go down that same path. He had just whatever was left in his bottle, poured it out on the street, and he decided that day to start Step 13. So Step 13 is a program that's based upon required sobriety, required work, and required accountability. And those are reinforced in many, many ways in the daily life of Step 13. So in the program, men that enter the program, they're required to pay $10 a day in fees. That isn't because that's what is going to help us cover the bills. It really is just they have to have buy-in into this program. Right. So they are also required to be sober. If they come in the door having, they're breathalyzed every time they come in the door, random urine analysis to be able to determine any one of 14 drugs that they might have taken. And if you come into our building, what we call hot, you come in hot, you are out the door. You are not allowed to go down and get your gear. You can come back and get it when you're sober, but you're just out. So it is an absolute standard of sobriety for men in the program. They have to get up at 6 a.m. every day. They have to make their bed to military standards. They have to get out the door and have to be working or looking for work. And Bob, Bob had the most amazing Rolodex, and it was all in his mind. But many of the people that are listening today were someone that Bob would call and say, hey, I've got some guys, they know how to paint, they know how to do some construction.
And I remember this because, trying to help get the word out about Step 13, Bob would always say, yeah, we need your money. But you know what we need maybe even more is we've got guys who need to work, who want to work, who are trying to do it. And these are guys who aren't going to be able to get a job with their present resume.
Right.
And he started putting together a mechanic's shop. He started detailing cars, trying to do these things. And the idea was, yes, you can come you will be fed, you will be housed, you will work.
Yes.
And what got me, and I'm assuming it's still the same way, was you have to, over the course of this, you're going to have to get a checking account.
Oh yeah,
you're going to have to learn how to write a check and put money in there and make sure there's a little bit more. Yeah. You're going to have to learn these things, which sometimes, if a person hasn't had to do it before, you don't know.
That's it.
And it's I look at these truly heroic people that Bob and you have helped to conquer the worst demons you can think of.
Yeah.
And it makes me humble. It's just amazing to see.
It's incredible. The community support is amazing. Our friends at Wells Fargo Bank do that. That's who we use now. They come down and teach budgeting, and they are great. They're not the normal bankers. No offense to bankers, but they come in. They're fun. They're engaging. They teach the guys that you're going to get a job, and you're going to have $200 in your pocket, and you're going to walk down, and you're going to see those Air Jordans, and you're going to want to buy them. However, let's look at your budget. And if you do that, then you're not going to have a cell phone next month. You're not going to be able to pay your fees. So they really help them. They develop that envelope system of budgeting. And then also they help them recover their financial relationship with financial institutions. So we get them a savings account. A lot of times they can't get more than that. There's not much harm you can do with the savings account. But then prepaid debit card, just step by step being able to get them back into some sort of credit relationship that will help them further on down the road.
There's also not only a peer support network inside with these guys.
Absolutely, John.
But there's peer pressure is not the right term, I don't think. But there's your guys who are just getting in are watching guys who've been in the program longer and go, wait a second. There's a TV in your room. You have your own room.
That's it. Yeah.
And there's a TV in your room, and you got a computer. How did you get this stuff?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And so they can actually see the steps in front of them and go, I want to be the guy who has his own room in this apartment building.
Yeah, that's when men enter the program. They're in a dormitory downstairs. They're usually there for about 3 months. We can accommodate 96 in the building. The majority are in the dormitory, but they can work their way up into that private room. And then even beyond that, we have nicer rooms up on the 3rd floor. They can work their way up there. And it's competitive envy is what Bob always called it. And it's important to know, we don't prepare them food. We don't give them anything. They have to buy their own food.
There's no soup kitchen here. They're not.
No,
they have to make their own food the way they will when they're self-sufficient.
Yeah, right. And they have to buy their own food. They have to cook their own food. We have a chef, Chef Michelle, who comes in. She's a cute gal, and the guys love that, by the way. So as you can imagine, so it's kind of tough to be around guys all day.
Yeah.
But Chef Michelle comes in, and she'll just open up the refrigerators. We have banks of refrigerators. Each guy has their own little area. She'll come in and just rip into them if she sees a bunch of turkey pot pies or frozen pizzas, and she'll say, you could have bought some tortillas and a dozen eggs, and you could have made breakfast burritos for yourself for every day this week, and it would have been much better than what you have in here. Right. So, we really work to train them.
Talk to me a little bit about why it's so crucial and part of your foundation that you don't take government money.
Absolutely.
Why? There's money out there. There are grants. We pay a lot in taxes to help the homeless, and now you're asking me to help you out with even more money. I've already given. Get that money.
Yeah, I'll answer that by telling a story. Jeffrey Canada is a pretty famous guy who runs the Harlem's Children's Zone in New York City. He does an incredible job, and I was a vice president at the Daniels Fund before I was at Step 13. I had a chance to give Mr. Canada a ride to the airport, and he just kind of opened up his heart and he said, the biggest problem he faces is a culture of dependency. The people he served just never seem to be able to get beyond the idea that somehow someone else is going to take care of them. We believe that for our men. If we take government funding, then we would be dependent upon that. We would have a dependency, and it would limit our ability to do what we do best. We'd have to do what they want us to do. We have never taken government funding. We never will.
Let's talk about how you're funding and what people can do as they're listening. One thing that's really helped out is car donations.
Car donations.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so you'd mentioned Bob had started a mechanic shop. That quickly evolved into a car donation business. So people would call and ask if they could donate their vehicles. So we set up a business when I say we, Bob set up a business to take donated vehicles. We take any kind of donated vehicle, and with cars, well, sometimes they're a car that has to go to the crusher. Sometimes they're a car that can go to a pull and pay if it's got good body parts and an engine. Sometimes we can auction it, but then there are other times. This week we got a 1967 Volkswagen Bug. It is as clean as any Bug I've ever seen. Amazing what people will provide to us. So those cars will sell on Craigslist or eBay. It gives our men the chance to work on the cars, to at least detail them, to get the highest possible value out of them, but we'll also put on a new windshield or put on a fuel pump.
So you're learning skills
Learning
as well.
some skills, right. It gives the men the opportunity to learn some basic skills that will give them, first of all, self-dignity, but maybe lead to, a career opportunity.
And if people want to donate, they can go to step13.org.
Step13.org. It's very simple. You just click on the car donation link. It's right in the middle of the page.
You keep talking about the men.
Yeah.
What the hell? Chicks have problems with addiction too.
Sure.
Do you help women, or is this a men's-only organization?
It's a men's-only organization. So it's kind of, I don't think I'll be able to tell this story, but at one time, Bob, women and children are that is the #1 population in need out there. There's such need out there. At one point, Bob did open up a women's program, but Bob was this big, tough guy, and he comes into Step 13. If somebody's not doing what, he directs them to, he would have really,
gotten physical
with them. So, but with the women's shelter, you'd go in and he'd say, "What are you doing here? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You're supposed to be at work." And they were like, "Bob, I just couldn't make it to work today." And he's like, "Oh, he just had such a great heart. He was a big, tough guy, but he had a heart of gold."
This basically evolved to something that has turned more to servicemen, and women need help. You don't turn them away.
No, we'll direct them to resources. No, we have a whole database of resources that we can direct them to. But John, really, the folks need to know it is a problem in this city. There are not enough resources out there for single women and their kids.
Talk a little bit about success when it comes to addiction. I'm amazed how low the success rate is to get people off of particularly certain drugs.
Yes.
Meth it's amazing how tiny the success rates are.
It's terrible.
And and trying to get a success rate from anything to actually being on your own, how's your rate? How do you measure that? We've only got about a minute.
Okay, the real challenge is addiction is insidious. It is overwhelming. We have a man who told a story the other night. He went off his motorcycle on I-25, is skidding down the center lane with trucks, sees his bike go off. First thought that comes to mind is, I hope my bike's okay so I can get to my dealer. Addiction is insidious. So we have a 32% success rate amongst our men right now. It's going to get better.
Which is amazing. When I heard that, I was like, only a third.
I know.
But then you find out that's about 3 times better than any other program, which is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, people want to learn more information. Where do they go?
Step13.org. You can also friend us on Facebook.
And again, money helps, cars help,
yes.
Jobs help.
Jobs help.
Peter, it's always fun talking with you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Listen for me on KHOW Radio. Tell a friend about the Independence Institute, and we'll see you next week.